The Podcasting Dead is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Make sure to subscribe for more podcasts. And while you're at it, drop us a like. If you want to help support the channel and have access to extra content, secret contest, and more, make sure to search for us on Patreon. Patreon.com/thepodcastingdead.
Time to get weird on a Wednesday. If you're just joining us for the first time, I'm Justin.
Oh, I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead. As the intro said, we podcast all over the place, and we podcast about a lot of different things, including conspiracy and sometimes paranormal stuff. As we get in today, we are going to be discussing 5G. Typically, the way it works is when we talk paranormal, I'm usually the one taking charge or doing the research or picking the subject or whatnot. Even though I don't really believe in any of the paranormal stuff, it's
keep an open mind to it.
Right.
And you
it's
have
fun.
had experiences that make you question your perception of reality.
That's true.
And perhaps your sanity.
That's true. But typically, paranormal is my territory, and conspiracy tends to be JP's territory, though I'm not going to say we don't trade off every now and again.
And sometimes they bleed together.
You're right. Yes, absolutely. Today, we're talking about 5G. So, JP, this is kind of your territory. So, tell me, I've been hearing off and on about, 5G's bad, but nothing in depth.
Yeah, man. I've been communicating with some sources of mine, and by the way, I we don't normally talk about much current events, man. And just before we dive into this thing, before long, we might be talking about some of this Iran situation. We were talking off mic. I mean, Iran hits a missile strike on some Iraqi bases, and next thing you know, a Ukrainian plane taken out of Tehran just blows up.
Right.
So, man, I don't know. It could be some fishy stuff going on. But anyway,
it's not war if there's not lies and fishy stuff going on.
Exactly.
No, I don't think there's ever been a such thing as an honest war.
No. But anyway, like I said, that just got me to scratching my head. So maybe we'll talk about that more as sources start bleeding information to us.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway, man, 5G, it's a lot of people are touting it as the next big thing. It's going to upload speeds are going to be phenomenal, telecommunications, all this kind of stuff. Well, according to sources of mine, it's actually a weapon system. The 5G weapon system is direct energy weapons, which, by the way, a lot of people have theorized that they were used on 9/11 to knock down the towers.
So you're talking like using like energy as a force?
Yeah, exactly. Direct energy weapons.
Kind of like an energy blaster or
something to that effect.
Not a laser gun per se, but like, something that doesn't shoot bullets, but like you could actually like a propulsion. I'm interested. I didn't know anything like this.
Yeah, man. And when it's been used off and on in the field of battle, troops that have just been around it. No, we're not even talking about troops subjected to it, but troops around it, man. I mean, they've had out of this world cases of PTSD leading to suicide, leading to brain injuries, random aneurysms, all kinds of stuff, dude. And it's not just what we're talking about in the field of battle, man. The government is basically testing it on us. You have a smartphone.
That's oh wow. I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to see if we're going in the same place here.
Okay.
So is what you're telling me that I just kind of want to guess. So I'm sorry to interrupt you and throw you off track. I know that can be annoying, but I want to guess. Are we going to say that what the government's doing is, like you said, there's a lot of bad side effects for people that just are around it, not people hit with it. So are they using it and seeing how we react to just being around it before they decide how to move forward with it?
Yeah, there's a lot of these different sources have a lot of theories as far as perhaps it's part of depopulation. You know what I mean? The globalists want to greatly reduce the amount of humans on the earth. And
why is that?
Well,
is it just kind of like a Thanos type deal?
A lot of these sickos in their mind think that they want to rebuild the human race. And a big part of that is
kind of the way like Hitler did?
Yeah, kind of like a great flood sort of situation, only without the flood, just wash out a big portion of humanity so you can kind of build it up from there. Another part of it is merging humanity with AI, with technology to almost become a new species of humanity, which is actually kind of cool because they're they've been kind of broaching that in the new X-Men comics. But no, man, the globalists, they're definitely not a friend of humanity. That's for sure. But with this 5G, dude, it's frightening. It's so scary. You know, there's never been like safety tests done because it would never get approved in a million years. Like the who regulates our radio stuff?
The FCC.
I don't think it's them that would be doing the safety tests on the actual technology, but nonetheless, man, there's a lot of cases of this being used on civilian populations. And like I was saying, you've got a smartphone, right?
Correct.
Have you ever wondered why it's called a smartphone? Just because it's smarter than the average bear?
Well, basically, I mean, it has not artificial intelligence per se, but it has the ability to search the internet and to do all of these things that basic phones couldn't do. I imagine like an unsmart phone is one of the fold flips, just
right, like a Nokia brick or something.
I figured we just call these smartphones because, like you just said, they're a step above the rest. They can do smart things.
Well, it's
I thought it was because I was smart. You know,
well,
you just crushed my dreams when I got my first smartphone. I thought he said, "Here's a smartphone for a smart boy." And I just
thought you on the head, and,
gave me some ice cream, touched me uncomfortably on my shoulder. But I just thought,
sounds like my Little League baseball coach. But
everything is a lie.
Yeah, but no. Would you believe it's actually an acronym? Smart and smartphone is an acronym.
Genius. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they're according to my sources, because you can find different meanings for the not the abbreviation, the acronym online, but according to my sources, and this goes deep, it stands for Special Militarized Armaments in Residential Technology. So we're talking about them basically testing out this weaponry on
that just sounds so perfect, though. That just sounds too perfect. Are we sure that that's legit and somebody didn't just... I mean, I can put an acronym to anything, to JP, because if you didn't know, JP doesn't spell his name actually out as the letter J and the letter P. A lot of times he likes to spell it out as Jaypea.
I've done that in the past.
I could do acronyms to that. That sounds super legit. Justin eats... No, wait, J-A. Why did I throw an E after that? Justin and you, please eat ass.
Since you said please.
Somebody could be like, JP does talk about a lot of homoerotic things on the podcast. So how legit is this acronym?
I trust my sources on this, and I'm actually going to give a website that the listeners can go to. And like I said, vet this stuff for yourself. I'm not up here saying that I've been out here in the field, spying on technologists, doing the research. But
that's something a spy would say.
That is something a spy would say.
Totally haven't been spying.
No.
Wink, wink.
But according to my sources, man, this is what it's being used for, and we're going to get into how it's being integrated and rushed into the U.S., who's behind it, and all of these sorts of things. But speaking of this kind of technology being utilized in residential areas, civilian populations, a place in Britain, shout out to Dan Ashdown. He's not my source, by the way, but
I'm sure he's not. He's your British spy.
He's my British spy. What can I say?
I feel you. Leave me out of y'all's spy work, whatever.
But they've, and I forget exactly where in the UK, but they installed these LED street lights. LED lights. Your electrical background.
LED.
Okay,
yeah, just the way I'm like, I know what LED lights are. Yeah. What are LED lights?
LED,
I've never heard of these.
LED lights, man. They're for little kids. No, LED. You're right. LED.
My LED light.
They had these LED street lights. And people, man, in this neighborhood started having all kinds of awful things happen to them. And it wasn't until they noticed that they weren't just lights, man. They had little antennas coming off of them, little antennae. You see what I'm saying? I mean, the people in this neighborhood, man, started having nosebleeds, sleeplessness. And this dude, one of my sources, actually went out there. He's like a British technologist. He invents a lot of stuff. He deals with all this kind of thing. And he went out there, and I forget the actual, amount of whatever energy it is, but just toxic levels of radiation pouring off of these streetlights with the antennas for God knows what. But I mean, more 5K technology being tested in a
5G.
5G, that's 5K.
5K always makes me think like we have a 4K TV and it's like, oh man, we're about to go to 5K.
Yeah, running a 5K. No, the 5G technology, man, it's, like I said, a lot of people have theorized it's mass brain control, mind control. Other people think it's simply for a depopulation, and a lot of people think they're testing it on civilians so they can use it in the theater of war. I think it's going to be used across the board, man. Theater of war, crowd control, population control. Again, a lot of people theorize that a direct energy weapon was used to knock down the Twin Towers. It wasn't blast planet at the foundation at the base or just planes crashing in. A lot of people think that it was a direct energy weapons.
All right, so going back here, how long were those lights up before people started feeling sick? I mean, was it like is it strong enough that it was like a pretty much immediate thing, or had they been there for a year, months? Do you know that?
It wasn't immediate. It was over a generous amount of time, not a great amount of time, but generous enough.
Okay, so this stuff is strong, but it wasn't like within the day or two they started feeling.
No, it didn't take long. I mean, we need to get like Aaron Brockovich over there, you know.
Well, I'll tell you something interesting that I had heard on another channel. I wish I could shout out the channel, but there was this. Have you heard of the like Havana buzzing thing?
That sounds familiar.
There's just this really curious case where these American diplomats were sent over to Havana. And they would report hearing this like strange noise, buzzing noise. And I mean, I'm talking like they started suffering crazy effects. Mm-hmm. I mean, like their health and just a lot of harm started coming to them. And the only thing and the scientists, the doctors didn't know where it was coming from. And really the only thing they had to go on was they all had in common the fact that they were hearing this noise. And some have blamed, of course, like the Cuban government for, I mean, that wouldn't surprise me if they weren't like, you America. And I think it was mostly Americans being affected. I'll take control of the conspiracy one Wednesday and we'll talk about that because that's really interesting case. But I don't really want to give too much more. I don't want to give misinformation. So that's all I'll say. It's a Havana thing. I'll look that up and maybe that'll be Weird Wednesday.
Do you think the certain elements within the government would stoop as low as to experiment with this technology on civilians?
Of course.
You think they would go?
I used to be one of those and I mean, I do. I'm going to say right now, I'm a patriot, man. I know our country's not flawless. And what country is, what country has the cleanest background? But I do love my country. But with that said, I'm not too fond of my government. It's like Eminem said once, I'm all for America, fuck the government. I used to really think that there's no way the government would do that to us. That's just crazy people talk. And until you go and look up declassified government documents, they're on the internet for the public to see. I mean, they've experimented on the general population thousands of times. There was one incident, and I can't remember if it was in Chicago or where it was, but they released tons and tons of mosquitoes with yellow fever into the general population to see how fast it would spread disease, because yellow fever is not a terribly deadly thing. It's treatable, and that's why they didn't put anything crazy. But they wanted to see the possibility of using mosquitoes in war, dropping bombs full of infected mosquitoes to enemy territory. Like, that's fact. They did that. They did it. Hundreds and thousands of mosquitoes on their own people. It's been declassified. There's JFK. I mean, JFK seemed like a pretty all right guy, but he straight up had a false flag attack planned to blame on Cuba. Yeah. Like, that's fact, just in case we needed provocation to go to war with Cuba. They had this where they would basically attack their own people. I mean,
attack civilians,
Your government does not have your best interest in mind. And I'm not going to go too deep down this rabbit hole because I don't want to get political. But that's why when all these people that just want Mr. Government to hold their hand and provide and make everything good for them, come back to real life. You know what I mean? Like, the government does not have your best interest in mind. Most politicians don't have your best interest in mind. Anyway, sorry. I know it's like a madman, but I mean, it's all true. You can look it up.
I mean, that's why you really have to keep your finger on the pulse and figure out who you need representing you and who you don't. Right. And that's
So long ass answer to your question. Yes, I totally think the government would experiment like that. Absolutely.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, it's established record at this point. I mean, there's Tuskegee experiments where poor black people, they infect it with syphilis.
And just let them go back into didn't give them didn't tell them nothing.
Yeah, studied them for like decades just to see the long-term effects of the disease. I mean, it's some...
And it spread like wildfire. It crossed racial barriers too. And I mean, it just makes you wonder, like the AIDS epidemic. Was that an experiment on people? I mean,
a lot of people think so.
It's, I mean, there's a lot. And the thing is, I'm not, JP's way more into the conspiracy stuff than I am. And I think that I don't think he believes a lot. I think he's open, like he said about me with paranormal stuff. I think he's very open-minded to a lot of these things. Yeah. I'm not going to say he flat out believes them all, but he definitely gives them. I don't think I give as many conspiracies time of day as JP does. So if you're new to the channel, I might sound like the kind of guy that just thinks that everything's out to get you, and I'm not. But I do totally believe the government does not have your best interest in mind, and that the government absolutely would experiment on the general population because they've done it.
Yeah.
They've done it time and time again. And I mean, there's so many layers to government, too, people don't realize. You've got like CIA could be carrying out experiments. I mean, there's a CDC. You got a bunch of... Which the CDC, don't get me wrong, I don't want to diss them too much because the CDC really does keep the population in check. I mean, they really are like our last line of defense against some terrible shit. Mm-hmm. So the CDC, I'll kind of give a pass. I hope that they're not up to something. But it's shit. That stuff happens. That is absolutely happens. I sound like a raving lunatic, but it happens.
No, there's dark elements in all areas of everything. I mean, certain agents in the CIA were dealing cocaine across the border of Mexico. I mean, you
see that with some police officers.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, here we live in a small town, so we know a lot of police officers. In fact, we're really good friends with a sheriff in our town, and I just think the world of this guy. He's just an amazing human being. And so I definitely am not one of these F the police kind of people. But I will say, I mean, you have that. You have police officers who deal the drugs they confiscate from other people.
Well, not only that, I mean, there's some cops that are not that are more looking out for their career than the best interest. I know someone who they were trying to pressure into testifying against someone who was murdered with no interest in like, well, this person will probably get killed for, spilling the beans on them, that we're not going to, protect their identity or anything like this.
Right, absolutely.
That's a whole thing. So, I mean,
there's a whole thing on Netflix. I think I've mentioned it before on the podcast. You should check out. It's called Confessions or Confessions Tapes. Or It's something where it shows different examples of people who were convinced by pressured, very much. And you can see the interview tapes and stuff with the officers or with the detectives where they are pressured into confessing the crimes that they did not commit. And then it's later found out that they did not commit them, like the real killer's found, or the person has and I mean it's insane. It's sad that with a lot of law enforcement, it seems like with murder cases and such, they're not really, and you can watch Dexter. Dexter's a prime example. Mm-hmm. That shit is reality in the sense of how they always pressure them. They'll threaten to fire people if they don't hurry up and pin somebody for this murder. The public wants justice, and we got to give them justice. They're not as concerned with actually finding the killer as they are just having someone to slap a label as killer, lock them up, move on to the next case.
Well, Didn't Clint Eastwood just make a movie about that? It's got John Hamm in it, something about a bomber or something.
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood.
Looks good. I mean, it's based on a real life event.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of it.
It's the guy's name. The guy, whoever it's based on, it's his name is the name of the movie. Yeah, it looks good. I didn't know that's exactly what. But yeah, and again, remember, I'm not speaking on all law enforcement. There are some detectives, cops, and officers out there that want nothing but justice and truth, and God bless them. But what I'm talking about are, that exists.
Yeah, man.
It's not this fairy tale fantasy world that some people want to pretend we live in. Open your eyes.
That's right. But yeah, man, 5G is scary stuff. It's scary stuff. And a lot of people wonder, President Trump has been a big advocate for updating our system, pushing it in. And according to some of my sources, it's basically because that'll give him access to the on-off switch. So when they try to use it for nefarious purposes, he can deactivate it. And that's what some of my sources say. I don't know, exactly.
JP had a good, interesting point a while back, man. That's probably been a few months back, that some people were saying that President Trump is not this. He was put there by this organization to try and dismantle all these secret societies and corrupt government stuff, things like that. And while that sounds far-fetched, this is kind of going into what he's talking about as well. Like this would be, he's trying to once again step in and
basically, elements within the military intelligence community who didn't want to see the globalists completely infiltrate and take over our government recruited Donald Trump, especially knowing he had the time travel technology.
That's another podcast that we did. Check it out.
To basically do stop him from doing a coup and totally take over the government in the country.
Totally run for president.
Institute a one world government and all this kind of stuff. And so it's a lot to look into, a lot to investigate.
Do you believe in population control? Like, do you believe that there are? Because one of the Rockefellers said a while back that it was his words. I'm paraphrasing, not a direct quote, but. He said it's a shame that the infant mortality rate is becoming as low as it is.
Yeah.
He said that on public record, that basically we were getting overpopulated. And it's a shame because back in the day, he was, you'd had, what was it? I saw something, and I might completely be wrong on this, but it was some crazy number, like 1 in 3 women would die or the baby would die in child. The infant mortality was a lot higher before modern technology and medicine. And one of the Rockefellers was saying that's a shame, that because of that, we're now getting overpopulated. So what do you think? Depopulation, is it a real thing?
I totally believe in it, man. I mean, I think about Game of Thrones when Tyrion Lannister's talking about how or whoever it was talking about how the food supply might not last through the great winter. And he's like, well, then we'll have a few less peasants to feed,
Right.
I mean, I totally believe in that, man. And I mean, I'll say this: I'm not against vaccination, but I totally believe that it's possible that tainted vaccines have been distributed by certain shadowy elements in the government.
This is the anti-vaxxing thing?
Like I said, I'm not against vaccination, but I do believe it's possible that, certain tainted vaccines or tainted medicines or treatments or whatever are distributed to certain elements of the population, to do things like that. I mean, whether it's, tainted medicine or vaccine, tainted food, preservatives in food that they know a certain ethnic group or something's going to eat a lot of. And they're like, hey, this is full of this preservative. That'll take them out, 20 years. That'll take 20 years off of their lifespan. I mean,
you do wonder with cancer on the rise. We all pretty much know that if we live out our days, we're probably going to die of some kind of cancer as we get older.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just pretty much.
Especially with all the crap we eat.
It used to be at the point of, man, I really hope I don't get cancer. Then it got to the point of, now we're like, I wonder which cancer is going to kill me.
Yeah. Or like, man, I hope I get testicular instead of colon cancer.
Right. Absolutely.
Rather you lose a nut than, lose my asshole and half my intestinal tract.
Yeah. So now you wonder, and I know that they say, thoughts it's in the food that we eat, and it's in all the signals in the air and things like that. But you almost sometimes have to wonder, is that part of population control? Because number one, it's made quite the boom in the medical industry. I mean, cancer is six? The number 6 is in there. It's like 6 billion or 60 billion or some crazy number. I obviously don't think it's 600 billion, but like a $60 billion a year industry. So business is booming. It's funneling into the economy. I mean, it's a lot of money that's going back into the United States. And, at the same time, population is thinning out with that. But then again, I don't know. Our population still continues to grow. But I guess it's one of those bigger picture things, though. They treat you for a while, make some money. But maybe 20 years from now, our population will have taken a big hit because of the effects. We might not be seeing the population control effects of it right now, but maybe somebody's playing a long game.
Oh yeah, dude. They're always 3 steps ahead. I was actually talking to a lady that just opened a CBD store in our little town, and she said CBD, the doctors had her mother on all these different prescription medicines. A lot of it had to do with getting her to sleep and stuff like this. And it's not that she eliminated every single prescription, But just CBD, man, I mean, it gets her to sleep. She doesn't have to take these like sleep aids that eat up her liver and all kinds of stuff like this.
Oh, man, the marijuana plant in general, it's just such a, I'm not that religious of a person, but I mean, if there's a higher power out there, they certainly knew what they were doing when they put that plant here. And I wonder if there's a God up there rolling his eyes at people battling over if it should be legal, going, Jesus, you people are stupid.
I thought you were going to say if there's a God up there rolling a blunt or something, I was going to like, Jesus.
No, I'm not.
Sign me up for that. I didn't know you were Rastafarian.
No, man. But I mean, like, up there rolling his eyes going, I give you this miracle plant, this plant that can make you feel good, this plant that can help with so many illnesses with next to no side effects. I mean, really, a lot of times, a lot of the side effects with marijuana are smoking it, which you don't have to do.
You don't.
And then, of course, having too much of it at a young age can mess with some of your brain development. But the thing is, in moderate doses, as will anything will mess you up if you have too much of it. So it's like, here's this plant with so many uses. And from the hemp, you can make rope that is strong. You can make paper.
Stop cutting down the trees, all that stuff.
It's just the most idiotic thing in the world that it's still illegal in places. But anyways, it's just like this miracle drug. And then, like you said, you got CBD from it, which helps with anxiety. It helps people. And I mean...
Oh, dude, you're supposed to just take one little drop as a sample, man. I took a teaspoon of that CBD oil. I'd never tried CBD, and it definitely had me feeling a little giddy.
What makes you feel? I mean, well, yeah, probably because you had like a mild overdose on it. But it's like, no, I bought a CBD cigarette one time, and it was like a straight up rolled up cigarette. And I don't think it was but like $1 maybe. They had them for sale. You could buy a whole pack for like $10, 20 of them, something like that. But I don't know if it was placebo or not because you're smoking and expecting something to happen.
Yeah.
But I did, man. Sometimes I can be a little like in my head and a little tense. And I mean, maybe it was just a placebo, but I remember sitting outside and I smoked it. And afterwards, I was pretty chill. Like I went inside and was kind of, I don't know. So I definitely would like to try more of it. See if it helps.
There's so many natural remedies out there, man. Like, we've talked quite a bit about psychedelics. They're finding out now, it's always kind of been scientific fact. As far as I know, once a brain cell dies, it's dead. Like you can regenerate skin cells, all the blood cells, but like a brain cell, once it's done, it's done.
Right.
They're finding now that psilocybin, the psychoactive ingredient in mushrooms, if you microdose with it, like take just enough, on a daily basis, not to get high or trip, but just enough, it's actually regenerating brain cells, psilocybin, and
that's how the zombie apocalypse starts.
Maybe
not with a bang, but with shrooms.
With shrooms, man.
I could see like the zombie apocalypse landscape, like you're standing there and it's just thousands of people tripping on shrooms, and they just act and seem like zombies because they're just so tripping balls. Just whoa, and it's like the horde's coming.
I'm telling you, man. Either that or they'd be laughing their ass off. You'd think they got infected with the Joker venom or something.
And then there's some having bad trips, so they're acting cray-cray.
Ooh, boy. But no, man. I get my Granny Nana. It's, I think, like Shroom Tech coffee, something like that. But it's coffee with little microdoses of like psilocybin. Are you
trying to bring your grandma's brain back?
No, what
are you trying to say about Granny Nana?
She's sharp. No, she's sharp. She's sharp as a sharp as a whistle. That don't make any goddamn sense.
Some whistles are sharp, my friend. I have a
be.
whistle that came with a knife, like a survival knife I bought, and it has really sharp edges. So I mean, there's some validity to that.
But no, I'm gonna start getting some of these shroomy kind of supplements, and a lot of people say it really helps with mental acuteness and things like this. I've been telling you since I got an iPhone a few years ago, man. I definitely feel like my brain's a little duller.
Well, you've heard me complain since you started working with me in radio that every year I feel like my brain's deteriorating. Right. You've heard me say that, like I lose my train of thought easier. I'm not as good at conversating. I just don't feel as sharp as I did.
Yeah.
And some people are like, oh, that's getting older. And I'm like, dude, no, it's not. Not at this age.
Yeah.
It's just insane. So, yeah, I could completely believe it. That's I don't really do resolutions per se going into New Year's, but my resolution for 2020, I'm kind of breaking my no resolutions thing and doing a resolution. I'm trying to use my phone less. I feel like society is just, It sucks, man. It sucks to have. I mean, phones are great. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people listening to this are probably listening on their phones. So phones are good. I'm not saying that like we should get rid of them, but I hate when people come to my house, and I'm sure they hate it when I do it too, because I know I'm just as guilty as they are. But I hate when they come to my house and I'm trying to conversate and I look up and they're all on their phone. We're supposed to be having a game night, having some beers, enjoying each other's company, and there just is this lull. And everybody is on their phones. And, you know, that's why I mentioned on our Patreon cast yesterday, I go to one of my buddy's houses, and a lot of times he'll invite me. It's usually you can count on another person or two or nobody. A lot of nights he invites me over. It's just me going over there, having some drinks with him. And I absolutely love it because it's one of my few friends that will just talk the entire time.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just as guilty. I'm not saying all my friends are on their phones and I never am. No, I'm trying to stop myself. But, you know, we actually will conversate. And I'm like, imagine that. Back in the day, man, people would come to each other's houses and they would sit in the living rooms. You had like a TV room, then you had like a living room. And the living room would have couches facing each other. And they would sit down, have a drink, and talk for hours.
Yep.
And so that's my resolution is to get. So maybe we'll see if I am able to use my phone less. If I start feeling like I get some of my wits back, maybe it's just irreversible damage.
It's hard to say, man. And you working around all this like radio gear for so many years. Who knows? Maybe that, you know. Yeah. I don't know.
I do notice I get shocked a lot more working around all this stuff. We stay supercharged.
Yeah. But I guess we don't really work around like the transmitters and stuff. Like everything we have goes to the internet. We've been
out there, obviously, but we don't work regularly under the towers.
Right. So it's not like we're around active radio waves, I guess.
No, we use a direct fiber line runs from our actual studio to the tower. And it's actually the city's tower, and we have an antenna on that tower for each of our two stations in this area, and we send the signals via a dedicated fiber line to the antennas. Well, actually to a brick link, which in turn is going into the transmitters and to the antenna and out to the community. But we are out there some. I don't think we're around it enough to really.
Probably not.
You know, I mean, very low dosage. But we do have to go out there from time to time.
Yeah.
But, it's probably been like 6 months since we've been around.
It's been a while,
So it's very spread out. But so population, so where, all right, if I go, sorry, I know we kind of digressed there a little bit, but going back to the 5G thing, so what do you think? I mean, I know that you're open-minded and you don't really ever have any like firm beliefs per se, but what is your gut telling you with this 5G, just based on the things you've read and heard?
Well, they're basically putting in a means of technology to control, survey, and if need be, eliminate, the certain segments of the population. It's a lot like in George Orwell's 1984, I mean,
that's one of my favorites. I love that book.
Yeah, I mean, you got TVs everywhere that you don't just watch, but that watch you, and this obviously goes a lot further than that, but I mean, they're absolutely using our technology as a means of control and possibly even extermination, and 5G is a big part of that. It's just kind of the next natural step.
Well, they do have some interesting cases where they've, admitted that like phones can listen to you, and Alexas and Google Homes and stuff can listen, and even been accusations of recording conversations.
Yeah,
and that's I really want like a Google Dot or whatever they're called, Google Home. JBL is one of my favorite audio companies ever. I think JBL and Behringer are two like the best. And JBL, I have multiple speakers from them. I love that company. And they make a home device now. It's a nice big speaker with great sound, and it also will do what you ask it to do. I've put a lot of thought into buying that because I'm like a JBL nerd. I go to Target, Walmart, and if I see JBL, I always got to stop and just see what's new.
Yeah.
I'm kicking myself because I could have got the Extreme 2 for $150-something, whereas normally it's like $300 and something brand new, and they've jacked the price. But anyways, but then I've had thoughts about it, like reservations. Like I want to get it, and don't get me wrong, there's really no conversation in my house that I really am worried the government's going to be. I don't even think I'm on the government's list. I mean, I'm not a threat.
Not yet, man. I mean, we start passing some of these gun laws in Virginia, you might have need to, worry.
You're not lying about it.
I mean, just
Yeah, well, I mean, it's that's the whole thing, man. If you are, we are in Virginia, and right now the whole gun thing
we're a
is
test state.
Yeah, we are, and I don't
really
like being a test state. Like,
no,
piss off with that bullshit. Bloomberg can take his ass back to New York, and that's not me picking a political side there. If you listen to the podcast long enough, or you go back. JP and I, neither one of us will proclaim either side of Democrat or Republican when it comes to politics. I think we both take something from each side. We're more independent.
Individuals I support more than others.
Right.
That's regardless a lot of times of party affiliation. It's
Oh, without a doubt. But I mean, like, this whole gun thing is just, I mean, like, it's crazy to think that depending on where they go, I mean, some people will be overnight criminals.
Yeah,
it's a whole.
Yeah, it's weird, wild stuff.
I don't think, regardless of which side you're on in politics, if you actually just, it's really, they're going about it the wrong way. You've got Northam trying to basically wave his dick around and show force rather than get a discussion going. I mean, and actually make some as he loves to say, common sense reform. I mean, he'd realize, because yes, I own several firearms and have my whole life. I had a military dad. I've hunted, I mean, I've got lots of firearms through the years. And the craziest thing is they've been locked down in my basement, and I just can't get them to get up on their own and go shoot something. Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. Yeah. But but the Northam's basically just trying to pull a Hitler and be like, you will submit, you will do what I want, and in the same breath going, we're not coming door to door to get your guns. But he is pretty much, it's a
slippery slope.
I told my girlfriend, I said that the shitty thing about politics is no one wants to have a conversation. It's just two sides trying to prove why they're right. Nobody wants to sit down at a table and have a discusussion. Yeah. Politics, at least Republicans and Democrats don't allow you to do that. Mm-hmm. If you're a Republican all the way, and they want to find common ground. We can't find common ground with things like gun reform because one side wants it to this extreme, one side wants it to this extreme. No one will sit down and have the conversation and come up with ways. I mean, I'm not going to get into it here because we don't do politics here on the podcast. But as far as gun reform, I talked to you yesterday about several ideas that I've had, and a lot of the people I've talked to, even some people I know that are in the lawmaking business, have been like, yeah, that's actually some pretty good solution there. But they'll never adhere to it because it doesn't fit either agenda. It meets in the middle. Yeah. Same thing with weed legalization. Get the hell out of here, man. Like, miracle plant. It's time to legalize. Since Virginia's all into experimenting, which then again, Colorado, I think, kind of opened the door for that. And it's past the point of experimenting. But come on, man.
At least in Virginia, it's legal to grow hemp now. So we're hopefully moving in the right direction.
Yeah, you've created some jobs. And you saw, I don't know if you saw on Facebook, but one of the most, one of the biggest hemp companies in the world came right next door to my hometown. Yeah. To this guy's farm and said it's some of the finest hemp they've ever seen in their life. Like, it is just incredible. And
we got the soil for it, man.
Oh, yeah. Now when you ride down 58, it's great because you just get this, you get to one patch where you get this big old whiff of reefer. And for some of us, myself, we're like,
Yeah. So hopefully things move in the right direction in the right ways. But
so 5G, your fear is that it's a population control technique. Is it population control and just
mind control? A lot of really negative applications for it. If you're more interested in stuff like we've been talking about, like government surveillance through your technology, I really suggest listening to the Edward Snowden interview on Joe Rogan from a few weeks ago. They really dove deep and to kind of check up on some of the stuff I've been saying. SaveUsNow.org.uk. That's a source gave me that. The government, of course, is trying to shut it down. They're trying to arrest people, but like I said, I'm not saying everything on there is fact. I'm saying it's an interesting thing to look into and make your own conclusions. SaveUsNow.org.uk. And
now that we're on a podcast talking about how the government's doing nefarious things, I should definitely not have mentioned that I own some firearms, because now they're like, this guy's we're gonna put he's gonna start drawing red flags. He's crazy. And like, no, honestly, what I think, I don't believe that it's a population control thing, and I don't believe that it's a mind control thing. What I will give some credence to, though, as far as in regards to 5G, is that I definitely could see that it is some form of energy weaponry, and that the government is testing the effects on us. Like what you said in the beginning for me is what clicked. It's been used in combat or been used in whatever, I don't know, experiments, exercises, real combat, but it's been used in troops that have been exposed to it, have had some terrible side effects.
Oh, yeah.
So as a way to study the side effects and see how we can, it's kind of one of those, you want to, make an omelet, you got to crack some eggs is probably the way that they see it. But I could totally see them using the general public as guinea pigs to see the side effects it has on people and what doses and how they can fix it. And so that to me is what if there's anything to the 5G, that is, that's what I could see being, in my mind, the most realistic, nefarious thing going on.
I think it's the first step in really using technology as a means of, transforming us in a very, very strange way.
Is that right?
Oh, yes. So we'll see. And anyone with more, I'm sure there's a lot of people with more information than me on this. We'd love to hear about it. Like I said, do your research, do some fact checking.
And keep an open mind.
I'm by no means an expert. I'm just relaying information that's been relayed to me. So,
keep an open mind to this stuff, because I don't believe most of it. At least I give it some idea, but I don't devote my belief into, most of this stuff. But it's always good to keep an open mind when you listen to something and hear it out. I remember one time my dad scoffed at the many worlds theory, or, the multiverse theory. It's the thought that there are parallel universes and yada, yada, yada. And, more or less was just like, that's just science fiction, though, right? Yeah. It's like, man, keep an open mind to stuff. I mean, you don't have to believe it. I don't believe in 90% of the conspiracies that JP presents to me, but I keep an open mind to the possibility of their existence. I mean, I don't know. But, check into it and report back if you find something. We love a lot of really good information we've gotten on everything from when we talk about, like, The Walking Dead to movies to, like, real life situations such as conspiracies we've gotten from listeners. So, if you know more about it, please leave it in the comment section below. And we always say, we can always revisit some of these subjects. So we get enough good information, maybe we'll revisit 5G. But I think next week we might do that whole Havana thing. That might be a good one. If something else pops up, we can do that. But if nothing else, that one's really interesting. It's just a really bizarre incident,
Yeah, I'm curious, man. You got me curious.
Yeah, we'll check that next Wednesday. In the meantime, we're returning with Mail Call this Friday. So if you are new to the channel and you've stuck around this far, odds are you didn't hate it too bad, or you just really waiting to let us have it, one of the two. But we do a Q&A every Friday where we answer your questions. You can leave it in this video. It's a lot easier if you go find our last Mail Call, which is on our channel. And leave your questions there. You can also send them to podcastingdeadpodcast@gmail.com. You can send them to us through our Facebook page. Also, don't forget to check out our Patreon. As the nice man in the beginning said, you'll get extra. We do 2 extra podcasts there a week, which we're going to try to structure that for different tiers and such, so that there are multiple podcasts per week. We do contests. We've got some really sweet, if you're a Walking Dead fan, we've got some really sweet Walking Dead stuff. And for our conspiracy people, we can start doing some conspiracy giveaways as well. And it's a great way to support the channel and help this to grow and get better and better.
That's right.
So until next time, I'm Justin.
And I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead.